Today's women is their search for attention and validation find themselves on Highway 304, the Cheaters Highway. Take a moment to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Exit 12, The Needy Wife. Her husband, Jeff, answered his phone as he was leaving work that afternoon. "Hello. Baby, I need you to make a couple of stops on your way home," his wife asked him. He grimaced. It was a long day, and all he wanted was to get home and relax before he had to take their 14-year-old son to his evening basketball game. "Can't you do it?" The silence was short, then she replied curtly. "Jeff, I need you to do this for me." She always said need, she never wanted anything, she needed things. It was one of those things that drove him crazy. His children had also taken that phrase up as well. He knew that Junior did not want to get to his game early, but Junior would need to get there early. Jeff did not know, or didn't realize when he starting just going along with it. Was it when he turned 40 a few years ago? He understood that maybe he wanted to change that. He looked at his phone. He knew that she was texting to him the things that he needed to do for her. "I texted it to you. Love you." And she hung up before he could respond. As usual, there was nothing on this list that was critical. Nothing that could not wait until tomorrow or the next day. 2 days later, as he began his commute home, Jeff's phone connected to a call from his wife. "I know it's my pickup day, but can you swing by the elementary school and get Sarah? I really need you to do this for me." He grimaced. "Why can't you do it?" He wondered if the call disconnected when she didn't answer right away. "It's a work thing that I need to attend. I should be home before 8, so you will need to feed the kids." With that, she disconnected the call. It was obvious to Jeff that his wife was going to the bars with her work friends. He wasn't stupid. When she arrived home, it was easy to tell that she was very tipsy and handsy with Jeff. She needed to get off, and Jeff wasn't going to pass up some intimacy with Melissa even though she had been drinking. He didn't make love to her. Jeff used her tonight for his own pleasure. He had to concentrate to get to the finish line. The smells of alcohol, smoke, and another man's cologne penetrated his nostrils. Strangely, Melissa seemed to enjoy it more than their regular intimacy sessions. Was it the booze, or was it someone else in Melissa's mind other than Jeff? You might wonder about this married couple. Jeff didn't consider himself anything special, but early in their relationship, Melissa made him feel special, but slowly over time, that seemed to fade. He was not short nor fat, but he wasn't tall or lean. Just shy of 6 foot, and close to 190, he had put on weight as most men do after marriage. Melissa in Jeff's eyes was perfect. It was her attitude that he didn't like. She wasn't a beauty, nor was she ugly. Most men would rate her face a 7, and when she made it up perfectly, she's an 8, 8.5, but her body was her power source. Even with a teenager and preteen, Melissa had a nice figure, and she dressed to exhibit it to everyone. After birthing the children, she was left with a larger bust line, and even though her hips were wider, she had kept a small waist. She looked incredible in a dress with her hourglass figure, and that's how she dressed for work. Dresses were slightly low cut to show some cleavage, and her dress hemline was just above her knees to show her nice legs. She used her ample cleavage to get what she needed done at work. At less than 5 foot, 4 inches tall in her work heels, men were always looking down at her chest on display. She flirted just enough, and flashed just enough to get most men to do whatever she needed. Get her coffee, take paperwork to accounting, buy her lunch or drinks, or anything else that she needed. Jeff had no idea of how she acted when he wasn't around to see. Yet for all her faults, she hadn't crossed the line. She had many close calls, but she always pulled back behind the line. She had Jeff for that need. She knew that Jeff understood her body, and usually always delivered for her the pleasure that she needed. At the after-hours bar meetups, she would loosen her bar clasps to let the girls a little roaming room, so when she danced with her male co-workers, she could mesmerize the men with her bouncing breasts. She'd squish them against the men when they slow danced, and even let some men over the years actually touch them for a short while. For the men that were a little harder to control, she would tease them more, even from time to time, at the bars, indulge a kiss or two as she was walked to her car. This had worked well for Melissa for years. A few months ago that changed for her. The new guy was a confident man, and very fit. Obviously, he worked out a lot. His work attire was a form-fitting dress shirt and tie. Always a tie. When other men work polo shirts, new guy wore his dress shirt, nice slacks, and his signature ties. He didn't interact with Melissa in his first month, other than a nod and a smile. He did observe her and how she manipulated the men in the office. She was attractive, but he didn't think that she was anything more than a good poke. Maybe one day he would do that, after he got established in his new position. Jeff noticed when his wife started talking about the new guy, Kevin. He noticed the infatuation with the new guy. He'd seen it over the years, time and again. It would last for a month or so, then the new guy isn't heard about again. It was because his wife was like a cat with a new plaything. Once she got the new man was lassoed in, she was done. The hunt was over. Her husband didn't know or understand how different she was at work than at home with him. She played with people's lives for her own entertainment. Never giving herself, only what others could do for her was important to her needs. Kevin wasn't that kind of man. He was no woman's plaything. If he was anything, he was a predator. He prided himself on his ability to get what he wanted, whether it was sexual or excelling in his sales job. Melissa overheard the rumors around the office as Kevin began to establish himself. He had bedded a few of the other married female employees to raving reviews. She couldn't imagine that anyone was that masterful as a lover. Halfway through his second month, Kevin finally came over to her desk to engage her. "I watch you, watching me every day. So I thought that I should properly introduce myself to you. I'm Kevin." He held out his hand. She reached over and shook hands with him. She noticed that he was watching how her cleavage jiggled as they shook hands. She gave herself a little sway as they shook hands so here would be more jiggle. Even though he smiled as he watched her breasts sway, he looked into her eyes. "I've got work to do. It was nice to meet you." He turned and walked down the hallway toward staff cubicle area. Melissa was the office manager, and her desk sat away from the hustle area of the call center and the sales areas. Now that she had officially contacted Kevin, it was only a matter of time before he would showering her with gifts and his attention, and she would not have to do anything other than be herself. As with some women seeking attention and validation, Melissa did realize that her powers had a limit. A time limit. She couldn't see that she was aging. When she looked in the mirror, she still saw a vibrant, sexy woman in her 30s. Not the woman approaching middle age. She wasn't trying to look younger, or be younger, she held herself in such esteem that she could not see the obvious signs of aging. When at home, she was attentive to her family to a point. As long as they did what she needed, everything was good. Since Jeff did most of the things with the children, even shopping for their clothes, she hadn't noticed how tall their son had gotten. Junior was almost as tall as his dad. She didn't notice that her daughter was standing slumped shoulders as she was developing early, just as Melissa had done at that age. Jeff's mother, the grandmother, had taken the girl to get her fitted for her first bra, and explained the changes that her body would be going through over the coming months and years. This was something that her mother should have done. That was for the best, because Melissa may have taught her daughter to use her budding assets to control boys to get whatever she wanted. Unknowingly, Jeff had dodged that bullet by enlisting his mother. A few months after Kevin and Melissa's first interaction, the husband looked through the shopping bags that his wife brought in that Saturday afternoon. He was aroused at the idea of the thigh-high stockings and lace undergarments that he found within the bag. Jeff's birthday was several months away, but he was excited that his wife was thinking that far ahead. That was enough to drive his libido that night when they made love. He was not aware that his wife started going to lunch occasionally with Kevin. Never more than a couple lunches each week. His wife was not aware how Kevin was inching his way into her life. As he manipulated her slowly. Like the old proverb of slowly boiling the frog so it doesn't notice the slow boiling water until it's too late. His success was driven by collecting information. Kevin upon his arrival watched the office dynamic. The men confessed that no one had ever gotten a sexual favors from Melissa, some got close, and it was the office fantasy that someone would succeed. He decided to be he first to succeed. A couple days after, he introduced himself to Melissa. She asked him to get her a cup of coffee as she jiggled her breasts at him. She needed fresh cup. Sorry. He replied, I don't drink coffee. He turned and walked away. She attempted over and over to lasso Kevin, but he didn't fall for her usual tricks. He ignored her, and that drove her crazy for months. That was when she began to really ignore her family. Her attitude changed at home, Jeff noticed right away. He stayed alert, as life moved on. Kevin never chased her, but he inserted himself slowly into her life. He casually showed up where she shopped, and helped her carry her shopping bags. He knew by watching the trademarked bags from stores when she carried something to work in them. This included restaurants. When he showed up a couple weeks later as she had lunch a few blocks from work, he sat down uninvited. She smiled thinking that she was manipulating him, but it was the opposite. He would drop in on her lunch every 4 or 5 days, as he began to collect the information about her life. Over the next 3 months, he learned that she and Jeff had been married for 17 years, and together for 20 years. Jeff wasn't her first, but she had only a few lovers during college before she met Jeff. That Jeff was the strong and quiet type, so Kevin to be sure to stay off Jeff's radar. What she was interested in, where her kids went to school, and he got to see pictures of Jeff and the children so he could avoid contact with them. Slowly, he got her to divulge about her and Jeff's love life. He noted what she needed from Jeff when they made love, and what she not willing to give to her husband in return. Simply, it was all about Melissa. She didn't give her husband anything special, nothing orally or deviously dirty. Only vanilla loving for poor Jeff. Kevin felt that Jeff could do better. She was attractive to Kevin, in an older sister's friend kind of way. He saw the lines in her face. He saw the makeup professionally applied to her face to hide the aging. The wobble under her chin. But he couldn't help to fantasize about her womanly body. She did have a sexy walk. He knew that he would enjoy having her, and he could wait until the right time. During their lunches, Kevin found humor whenever he heard her say the phrase, "I need." When Melissa asked him for a favor, he would request a favor in return. "I need something sweet. Will you get me a candy bar?" His response would be, I need something in return. How about you unbutton 3 more buttons on your blouse, and give me a little show? She thought that she was in power even as she unbuttoned her blouse for Kevin, and pulled it open for him to gaze at her bosom. During their lunches, Kevin began to plant the seeds of her betrayal. How she was obviously too much woman for any one man. How she needed, her favorite word needed, to be experiencing other men. Men that are superior to her husband, such as himself. How over the years, he had been experiencing married women in open relationships. How these women exclaimed the new experiences made their marriages better. Any seed will begin to grow if supplied enough fertilizers and nutrients. This dark seed began to show at home. Jeff had been keeping a journal of his wife's coming and goings, her attitudes toward both him and the children. He questioned her about it, and she denied anything out of the normal. He noticed the hidden texting, and the secretive side of his wife. Their intimacy dwindled to once a week, then every 2 weeks. Sometimes, he woke during the night, to the sounds of self-pleasure coming from the bathroom. The light from her cell phone illuminating from under the door. Was she sexting someone? Ever the realist, Jeff feared that his wife was having an affair. He met with his attorney, and started paperwork for the eventual divorce. The papers were ready for weeks before the night of D-Day, and were placed quietly in his top desk drawer at home. Kevin was patient. He spent almost 5 months of grooming Melissa. For the last 5 weeks, they had been kissing and touching during their lunch hours, and nearly every evening after the workday ended. This made Melissa late coming home, but that wasn't his problem. He found that she was very responsive to his touching. He was very experienced with married women. He loved married women because there was no agenda or complications that single women brought, the expectations of a relationship and marriage. Married women had that already, they only wanted a little fun on the side. He was happy being the side piece. He started asking her to spend the night with him a couple times each week. He noticed that she was becoming responsive to the idea. How maybe she needed to experience Kevin. He doubled down with no just him, but with other men that really desired her. She needed that experiences in her life, didn't she? D-Day arrived. There was no invasion. No parades. Just an astounding quiet. Jeff felt it that Friday evening that his wife didn't come home. The expectation had been building for weeks. After 3 hours, he tracked her iPhone. It was located a few miles away. He knew the motel. He drove past it daily. With the papers retrieved from the desk, he drove to the motel to find her car. It was there. After work that day, Melissa and Kevin went to his car for their afternoon makeout session. He did enjoy the softness of her body, as he touched her. He did like older women for his fun time. He could tell that he had her motor revving up. He suggested going to his place as he often requested. Acting on whim, she agreed. She knew that she shouldn't do this, but she needed to, she really needed to do this. She knew that she could go home, and have Jeff, but Kevin really made her excited. Motel? She stated. I'm not ready for your place yet. A motel with clean sheets is nothing, if you need it, like I need it. He had other women that he serviced, so his needs usually were met, but he understood it was going to cost him a few bucks to have his way with her. If she needed this, he wouldn't pay anything. You pay? Fine. She replied before coming in for another kiss. I need a room for the night. She told the desk clerk at motel. After paying for the room with her debit card, she waved the key card as she exited the office. Kevin exited his car, and met up with her. She walked toward him, his hands on her hips as they strolled together to the room. Inside the room, she leaned back against the door as they passionately kissed. "God, I need this." He smirks as he replies, "Oh, I'm going to give you what you need." Kevin didn't know what Melissa expected, but he knew what she was going to get. She kissed with a hunger. He groped and roughly squeezed her chest and bottom. He wasn't nice like Jeff, he didn't have to be. Kevin wasn't going to try and please her, he wasn't married to her. He was going to give her what she needed. A good hard banging. She gasped as he tore her clothes from her body. The lust in his eyes excited her. He pulled the shoulder straps of her bra downward with enough force to pull her bra down between her ribs and her waist. She loved the look in Kevin's eyes as he saw them in their glory. It turned her on as much as it did for him. Maybe more. Pushing her backward onto the motel bedspread, he stared at the last barrier, the gate of heaven as her husband often called it. Her panties? Kevin undressed quickly as he observed her squirming with excitement. She observed him as well. She had never thought she would ever be with a man that was that ripped. Those hours in the gym paid off. His body was totally shaved. He was hairless everywhere. Not a caveman like her husband. His hands slid up her thighs to the edges of her panties. He smirked to her as pulled them off of her legs with enough force to drag her to the edge of the bed. "I'm going to give you what you need." There was that smirk again. There was no foreplay, no tenderness, no passion, there was only an animal lust. Two people rutting like wild beasts. Her lust gave way quickly to the feeling of being used. She was used by a selfish man that didn't care about her needs. He continued without hesitation. Melissa wasn't used to being thrust and pounded around her bed during intimacy. Her ample breasts bounced every direction as Kevin continued. She took both of her hands and arms to hold her large chest, to stop the pain of her bouncing bosom. The discomfort overrode any excitement that she had earlier. As quickly as it started, the event was over. He disconnected from her former gates of heaven. That's what you needed. The smirk burned into her memory, and she knew then. He had confirmed it for her. Kevin began to dress, and as he buckled his trousers, she asked, "Can't we snuggle some, and get ready for round 2? That's what Jeff would do, she thought. He replied, "Sorry, I got stuff to do tonight." Feeling desperate, she reached for him as he pulled away. "When can we get together again?" she asked. As he walked to the door, he responded, "I don't think we can do that." "Why not?" she said as her emotions built within her. He opened the door to leave, he turned. "Because you are too needy." With that said, he closed the door behind him. She washed and washed in the shower, as if she could wash away her betrayal. Jeff would never understand that she felt she needed this. She was so sure that she needed it, but it wasn't what she thought it would be. Melissa thought it would be romantic with lots of kissing and foreplay. He would satisfy her, and she would satisfy him, and the fireworks would be amazing. It would be so amazing that they would sneak away for these intimate encounters that only they could share with each other. How romantic. That's not what she got. What she got wasn't good. Not even close to good. What she got was wham bam, thank you, ma'am. She felt cheap and used. Especially when she realized that the office would know about it on Monday. She might need to find a new job. She cried in the shower because she knew that she was used. Her husband found her car easily in the motel parking lot. It was by the office. She obviously was in too big of a hurry to move her car to the room that she rented. He took the extra set of keys to her car, and unlocked the car door. He threw the packet of divorce papers onto the driver's seat. On a red post-it note attached to the manila envelope were the words, "You need to know, it's over." He closed the car door, and went to his truck and drove home. He was done. No words could change his mind. Her actions spoke volumes. The disrespect was too much. Melissa sat on the motel bed for hours, as her remorse sat in. It had been hours. She was very late getting home, so there was going to be a fight. A big fight. Should she be honest with her husband, or make up some lie? The truth would be the end of her marriage. The disappointment engulfed her. The months building up to tonight was so intense, but the reality was a huge disappointment. Kevin got what he wanted, and she was surprised that he had no interest in her getting what she needed. Her husband tried to make sure she was as satisfied as possible when they were intimate. The fantasy constructed that Kevin would be better than Jeff, but he wasn't close to being as good a lover as Jeff. She resigned herself to go home and take her lashing. Her marriage was probably destroyed, but maybe Jeff loved her enough to forgive her. She really didn't think he would. Deep down, Melissa knew it was something that he would not do. He was not that kind of man. Walking slowly in the cool night air to her car, she unlocked the door with her remote. Looking through the driver's side window, she saw the envelope with the bold red sticky note attached to it. "He knows," she whispered to herself. Pulling the door open, she took the envelope into her hands and read the message. "You need to know, it's over." Pulling the bundle of papers from the envelope, she read. "Dissolution of marriage" across the top of the first page. The realization hit her hard as she cried. The once proud woman sat in her car. She knew that Jeff didn't get what he needed. He needed a loving, faithful, honest wife. Not a cheating, manipulating 304 of a wife. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. Today's women is their search for attention.